You guys saw the title, you clicked on the thumbnail. Yes, we literally did an entire one-off custom LBZ DURTYMAX swapped F350 with the wrong transmission of all things. Ladies and gentlemen, before we go into this video and the things that I had just messed up royally, I just want to let you guys know Dream Diesel Giveaway 27 is that big turbo fixed vane S467.7 60 over injector equipped 10mm pump pumping Whirly custom fab built trans fully paint matched brownstone metallic high country DURTYMAX on 24x14 concave American Force wheels, and it's up for grabs. So if you guys want to enter for a chance to win that truck right there, arguably one of my favorite trucks that we've ever done because it is the complete top to bottom front to back package, then you might want to get entered for it. Check out enthusiast.com. All the rules are on the site about how to enter for that truck, and 15 times entries are actually still live, but they're ending this week, and it's this giveaway's max multiplier. Now, I'd love to sit and talk about how beautifully finished and done and drivable that truck is, but we're gonna switch gears into a truck that's not well, it's very beautiful, but it's not drivable. So I was actually gonna get to work on this thing, but then, you know, I snapped an Instagram story, put it up real quick, and asked the poll, should we make a video about this? And like 95% of you guys had voted yes, and that's why I'm making this video right now. It's getting a little bit late in the day, but we got some critical information that we got to cover because I somehow managed to not notice that I got the wrong transmission for this truck, and we had gone through the entire mock-up process, custom cross member, custom trans cross member, and everything else under the sun that supports the LBZ DURTYMAX, but with a not LBZ transmission. All right, guys, now we got to go into the details. Let's tell a little story. So, just to preface, we've got a standalone harness in this truck from Ken down at Standalone Harnesses at standaloneharnesses.com out of Florida. To support the actual logic of the wiring system, we needed brains, and that's where DURTYMAX swap comes in. Those guys also happen to be out of Florida, Jupiter, Florida to be specific. They actually tuned the LBZ PCM, which runs the motor, as well as the TCM, which is mounted so beautifully right on the inside of the fender well behind where the headlight's gonna go for the Allison 6-speed transmission. I then found myself in the very cab of the truck. I can't wait to drive right up this driveway. If I make it that far, I'm going to be thrilled. Diagnosing trans issues for like 3.5 hours. Now, something just wasn't right. So it all started at that exciting pinnacle moment where we were starting to put some trans fluid into the trans. 12 quarts to be exact, because we had a completely dry converter and a very dry transmission from Hicksville DURTYMAX. Now, I do want to preface that this is not the fault of Hicksville, rather I was quite involved with it too, for some things we'll talk about here shortly. Those guys have been absolutely amazing to work with. If you don't know who Hicksville is, that's a DURTYMAX specific scrapyard. So to my DURTYMAX loyalists, my GM boys, they're your place for used parts. They're awesome. So I'm starting to fill up. 12 hardy quarts is what the Allison transmission takes to fill a converter with new fluids, etc. And then I ended up having to add 2 more because that line right there, that goes to our remote mounted transmission cooler that's in the back of the truck. We mounted it in the rear because the bumper on this truck could not conceal it, and I didn't want this thing to have some sort of like a really big kind of cleft super chin. So I got it all filled up, jumped inside the truck, started it up, went to put it in gear, and nothing happened. I wish I recorded my reaction because I was thrilled yet very nervous because I didn't know if it was going to launch forward. There were all these things that were all coming to fruition at one point in time, but legitimately nothing happened. Well, come to find out, the first occurrence of that was, well, I didn't have enough transmission fluid. It actually ended up taking 14 quarts, 2 additional quarts because of that remote mounted system, thicker lines, and a larger transmission cooler in the rear that has a higher capacity. Also, we will be building some ducting for my technical guys in the audience that really funnels a lot of air up in there. It's a really nice setup because it's totally out of the way and totally concealed. So a majority of the diagnostic work that I'm doing is actually off of my Edge CTS3, which is hanging out right there. And that right there is a DSP5 switch in an OBS. Isn't that a beautiful thing? I've been using the CTS3 because it shows me essentially every parameter through OBD2 through the standalone harness that Ken built for us. So all things are looking fine and dandy. Transmission fluid temperatures increasing, and I'm thinking, all right, boys, we're in business. We're about to do this thing. So I cycled it a few times, let it warm up, get up to temp, thinking, all right, well, I just had to let it flush its system, go to put it in drive again, and literally nothing happened. So then I said to myself, what do? I have absolutely no idea what's going on, and I had to reach out for some help, and thank God for the guys down at DURTYMAX Swaps. Specifically, Adam, I gotta give you a huge shout out because he took time out of his very busy schedule to help me troubleshoot and diagnose transmission stuff, which I'm completely unqualified for. So we started from the top. And the top was, Jack, run your CTS to see if you have any check engine code. So I do, and this is what I saw. And I'm like, okay, yes, something isn't right, Adam. We're on to something here. So I've learned that 07, 08, and 09 codes are typically related to the transmission and the driveline, which includes the transfer case. So process of elimination continues. He's like, well, they really shouldn't be tripping that many codes. So how about you go in, disconnect the primary parent plug to the transmission, make sure it's clean, doesn't have any debris in it, and we'll go from there. So I look at it and it's beautifully clean, not only on the trans side, but also on the wiring harness side. So I called Adam back and I'm like, dude, we're striking out. I have no idea what to do at this point in time. And he says, all right, well, I think you should probably drop the pan, drain all that fluid out of it that you just put in it, and check for any metal fragments or any contamination inside the trans. Like, all right, cool, that's a good idea. We'll make sure the valve body's there, we'll make sure everything's hooked up, we'll make sure we're in business. So that's exactly what I did. We got a 5-gallon bucket, we filled it up with 14 quarts of brand new trans fluid, we dropped the pan, and we found absolutely no metal, absolutely no contamination, and nothing that's concerning. So then I call him back and I'm like, dude, I have absolutely no idea. Valve body looks like it's there, it looks like it's connected, what else? And he goes, Jack, I know exactly what your issue is. All right, so I'm gonna leave this to the Allison experts in the audience. Here's our trans. We've got the valve body totally exposed. It looks really good, right? Everything's connected, nice and clean. We got that brand new filter on there. Things aren't cheap, by the way. We got that brand new filter on there, fresh oil filter. I was ready to go, guys. I'm thinking to myself, all right, what could be wrong with it? Does anybody see it? Well, to those of you that don't know, that is the clear indicator right there. That is the neutral safety switch. It is unplugged. I assume that it needed to be unplugged because the standalone harness that we got from Ken just bypassed it, right? Because it wasn't on the plug. Everything else plugged up perfectly. The sensors up here for the variable speed sensors, the sensors back here, the whole 9 yards. Even the parent sensor plugged in so nicely. Well, you know what this is, guys? This is not the right transmission. As a matter of fact, it's a transmission out of an 01 to 05.5 LB7 or LLY DURTYMAX. It's the 5-speed, not the 6-speed. And we had essentially done, I say we as in Hunter and myself along the way, built a custom motor swap for an F350 OBS around the wrong transmission, which to me immediately had me so paranoid, so worried, so concerned. Do we have to backtrack? Do we have to rework? Do we have to do a bunch of other stuff? Well, the answer to that is, guys, drum roll. You probably see me crying right now if the answer is yes. No, we don't have to. Fortunately, the 5-speed and the 6-speed transmission cases are the exact same. It's just the internal components and some of the exterior electrical components that are different for the 6-speed. So fortunately, when we get a 6-speed transmission, it will go right up in there. But I feel like the transmission gods or the diesel gods kind of somewhat had us in their favor through all of this headache and all of this troubleshooting that it is that we had to go through. Because I had had conversations with Worley Custom Fab a long time ago, and they actually just finished up the fully built transmission that's going to be on its way for this truck. That's actually going to be shipping out today. It happens to be the exact same 750 plus transmission that's in Dream Diesel Giveaway 27 that could be your trans to feel out for yourself. So I'm super excited about that, and that's kind of where I feel like all this was somewhat meant to be. Unfortunately, it's not going to set us back too far, but man, I was freaking stressed out. Now, being that I like to tell full stories, this is not at all Hicksville DURTYMAX's fault. Rather, it was kind of my fault because I didn't communicate clearly. I just said, whatever transmission you guys have at the time, please send to me because we need to mock up a transfer case, a transmission, and an engine into a DURTYMAX, and I never really specified what year I needed. So now we got this thing up on the lift, and we're actually going to work on taking the trans out so we can prepare for the fully built Worley Custom Fab trans that's going to go in it. So that's the OBS update. Now I'm gonna fast forward to a little field trip that I took the other day. I finally got something that I've been looking for a really long time because they're not available anywhere. ladies and gentlemen, we got the 110 now. I gotta add a few mods to it. I'm thinking a skid plate because I got a decent amount of rocks on my property. I'm probably not gonna do a pipe because I wanna keep it kind of quiet so that way I can scoot around on it and be kind of under the radar. Probably some bigger bars, potentially some larger pegs and a peg mount. Probably not gonna stiffen up the springs for the time being because I know my son's gonna wanna ride on that thing with me often. And maybe a few other mods like 286 for number plates and some enthusiast graphics. Yeah, I think that'd sound pretty sick. That's where we're gonna wrap up this video, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks as always for watching. Grab your entries for the sexiest LML that I think I've ever had on the channel. Okay, I can't say that, but it's definitely one of the most elite, without a question of a doubt. Subscribe and hit that thumbs up if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys on Thursday.